Hello there, IELTS General students. In this lesson, we'll be looking at common mistakes that I see students make all the time in their writing Task 1 letters. And some of these common mistakes and errors really are applicable, or you can apply them to all other writing tasks and assignments too. So I just want to jump through some of these and show you some mistakes that you must try and avoid. And up first, we have not using the correct tone. So students will often choose the incorrect tone, or very commonly, this is the big mistake that's often made, switch between tones in their writing. So it may be a formal letter that you need to write using lots of formal, correct language. And then sometimes students will slip in and out of using informal language too. One way to make sure you don't make this mistake is to ensure that you are practicing a lot of different letters, formal and informal. Try and get some feedback on them. Read them back yourself. Make sure that you're using the correct tone throughout. Consistent use of tone is really important, and it's a mistake that students make all the time, and it does cost you band score for sure. So mistake number 1, not using the correct tone, and importantly, not consistently using tones overall. Okay, mistake number 2 is not answering all bullet points. So another common error is not exploring each of the bullet points, or again, moving away from the topic. The bullet points are so useful within the question because they basically tell you what to write in each of your detailed paragraphs. So sometimes students will just completely forget to answer them, which is a massive blow to their score. That's like a big drop in band score. Or sometimes students will slightly move away from the actual bullet point, just like a small error. It's not quite what the bullet point was saying. So that's all about interpreting and making sure you've read the question carefully. But also commonly just moving away from the topic. So it's about remaining focused, looking back at the bullet points, making sure that we've done a good plan, which of course we've already learnt about in this section of the course. So make sure that you're sticking to the question, you're answering bullet points, and you're really being careful with the different ideas you're exploring. Okay, so both of these are very important for IELTS General Task 1 letters. Let's take a look at mistake 3. So this is about forgetting to use openers and endings. Again, very important for our letters. So sometimes students will forget, obviously you're given your salutation, which is dear or hello or whatever it may be. But remember to open and close your letter with strong introductions and appropriate sign-offs. If it's an informal letter, you want to open with a polite but more relaxed introductory sentence. And we've looked at different ways that we can introduce our letter, but also remember to use the appropriate sign-off. If it's informal, best regards, all the best, something like that. Whereas if it's more of a formal letter, your sincerely or sincerely often work the best. So just remember to be consistent with that. As students often forget to do it or make mistakes with it. Just because it feels like a smaller part of the letter, something less important, doesn't mean that it can't still kind of ruin our overall score. Now, the next mistake is something that is super important in all English writing tests and often not really discussed enough with students. And that's really about students making grammatical errors. Now, you remember from the band descriptors, grammatical accuracy is 25% of our score. That is, of course, true. However, students will often make mistakes with their grammar, which means that they are stuck at certain band scores. So focusing on being accurate with our grammatical language, our grammatical structures, is really important. But nearly all students are going to make errors in their grammar. there's probably only a couple of handfuls, maybe, of letters or task 1 reports or essays for task 2 that I've read where I wouldn't change anything. Now, it rarely happens because as a high-level writer myself, there's always something that I can edit. But in terms of just a grammar mistake, pretty much all students will make some grammatical errors, some more than others. And the less grammatical errors you make, really, the higher you're going to score. So although grammatical accuracy is 25%, I think actually in a way it's a lot more important than 25% because it highly dictates overall band score. Now, of course, paragraphing, vocabulary use, sticking to the answer, these things are really important, but your grammar is super important. So what I suggest you do is focus on studying grammar. Make sure you're reading as much as you can. Quality text. It doesn't have to be IELTS book I'm talking about. And I say this to students all the time. Stuff like 1984 by George Orwell, The Old Man and the Sea, Ernest Hemingway, because reading actually is a fantastic way to naturally improve your grammar. Of course, you need to study grammar and the structures like we have done in this course as well. But yeah, I won't go on too much. I could wax lyrical. I could talk about this for ages, but grammar is super important. So make sure that you're watching all the model writing videos, you're focusing on your grammar, you're reading lots and lots and lots every day, and really do try and focus on that. Okay, so first up, not using the correct tones or not sticking to the correct tones. Mistake number 2, not answering all bullet points or kind of getting distracted and moving away from the point of the question. Mistake 3, forgetting to use the correct sort of introductory sentences and sign-offs. And mistake number 4, making lots of grammatical errors. Last thing I'll say for that, make sure you give yourself time to read back sentences as you write them and then scan over the whole writing at the end and make edits to your mistakes.